Fuzzy Gloves here, and today I'm going to be showing you a free VST. It is called Midi Shift Array. It's basically an arpeggiator. Someone said, hey, can you do a video on this? And so I went ahead and found it and downloaded it. It is free. And so what it is basically if I hit a note, that is one note. If I come over here, so it's pretty much just a fancy arpeggiator. So as you see, one note doesn't do that much. If I come over to the shift array, and what I'm able to do is I'm able to take the timing of each of these. So let's go ahead and do a setup real quick. So first, if you want to do this, you need to go to the website. I went to Splice because I could not find it on the Xfer website. So I ended up getting it from here. So this is where I got it from. I'll put a link to this page in the description. You'll have to sign in or become a member in order to get it. And then what you do is you download it. It's a DLL. You put it in there. You scan for new VSTs, all that stuff. And then you grab the thing, which it should be, I'm missing it. It's right here, MIDI Shift Array. There it is. But right now, it's just a MIDI control plugin. So it doesn't make any noise by itself. I need something to give it that will make noise. And then this can tell that thing to make noise. So I'm going to use Massive. So all right, here's Massive. And I'm going to go into Massive and set the input port. So it will receive MIDI information. I'm going to set it to 5, just arbitrarily to 5. Now I need to come over to my MIDI shift array, go into the cog icon, and set the output port. So it's going to output on port 5. So information is going to go out of the plugin and it's going to go into Massive number 2. And if I hit a note, you see that my MIDI is coming from the MIDI shift array. There's actually, the sound is coming from Massive though. If I were to mute Massive, well, this is something that's been kind of interesting I've found. Muting it doesn't turn it off if you're using the MIDI shift array. That's a weird deal, but let's just say, just to prove my point, let's say I delete it. And now I hit, you see it's receiving MIDI information, but the sound's gone. So I don't know why the solo doesn't work on the channel rack, but for whatever reason, it somehow gets around that. So I'm going to come back in here and set the input port to 5. And cool, we're good to go. I'm going to just pick a more interesting sound. That sound was all right, and turn this down. Just so I don't go deaf or whatever. Okay, cool. So we've got this, and we're like, all right, now how do I get this thing to do some more stuff? Well, over here you have the ability to enable 4 modules. And basically what happens is when you give this a note information, a MIDI note, it's going to output according to the active modules. So right now, there's only one active module, it's the top one. And we have a timing knob. We're able to adjust the timing. So it'll repeat the note every quarter note according to our current configuration. And this is the pitch offset. So right now, our pitch is at 0, so it will repeat the same note. And this blinking light right here is to represent the cycle of the LFO that's being used. And when it blinks, I believe it's at its maximum value. So you see, now we have a pulsing quarter note. And we're able to, we'll come to this little invert button here in just a sec. So I'm able to go down and make it like every 2 bars. I'm going to increase it to 1/32. So we're getting 32nd notes, 16th notes, or in this case, now I have 8th notes. Now what I'm able to do is I'm able to apply a pitch offset. So I could say, hey, I want you to go from this value, and then I want you to also play 4 half steps up. So if I hit a G, it's going to play a B. Cool stuff, right? Now, right now, it's always going to start on the note I hit, so the G. But if I hit phase invert, it will decide to play the top note instead. So it'll start on the B versus it's starting on the G. And then you have 4 of these. I don't recommend giving this thing chords because it's going to do this for all your notes, and that doesn't sound very pleasant. Now, if I turn on a second module, I could set this one to like 1/16. And now I could set this to maybe do a pitch bend down a 4th, or 4 half steps, not a 4th, a major 3rd. And now you'll see them begin to interact. So the 8th notes will be this pitch, while and they'll rotate between the 2 pitches, while the 16th notes will become this pitch rotating between the 2 pitches. So as you can see at this point, it can get quite complicated. If we add in another one, now we've got a whole bunch more, a whole nother module. We'll do 32nd notes. Let's do something slower, a little more reasonable. Let's do a quarter note, and let's have it go up an octave. So every quarter note, we'll hear a little beep, and every other quarter note will hear it the original tone, unless one of these takes precedence. I haven't like figured this thing out down to a science. You're gonna mess with it until you get something cool, but we get out our last one in. So you see it's rotating between the two. So that's really cool. We have a different take on the arpeggiation offered from the native stuff that's included in the background wrapper of most plugins. If we come in here, we have our arpeggiator. We can do similar things, but not like this. So that's the reason why you would grab this. I'm a big fan of sequencing my own stuff, but maybe you want to make just a quick ARP and you don't want to use the piano roll. You just want something that's sort of automated. You can use this. I don't see a place to save presets anywhere. So if you want to save presets, too bad. I'm not really sure what you would do besides save it with your project. Okay, and you see down here we have this dot and this 3. When you hit the dot, it will give you the access of dotted versions. And this is relative to where your knob already is. It's sort of a weird thing. But if I move it, you see that I'm able to have a bar. And then I also should have a bar with a D, meaning dotted bar. So the dot comes from music theory. The dot means that whatever value it is, add half of that value. So in the case of a bar, this would be worth a bar and a half. But if I were to go up to, say, an eighth note, if I move it a little bit further, or down a little bit, apparently, I get to an eighth note dotted. This means that I will get a eighth note plus half an eighth note, which is a 16th note. So I get an eighth note plus a 16th note's worth of time. And the same goes for the triplet. And triplet, of course, if you watch my series on rhythm, you can go and learn all about triplets and compound meter versus simple meter. But basically, usually we have like 1 and 2 and. So we have 2 notes for every beat, breaks down into sets of 2. A triplet will break these things down into sets of 3. So a quick example of this is if I were to go to the 8th note and go ahead and hit a note, I will get 8th notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and so on. With the triplet mode, I will get triplet, 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 triplet. Triplet. Now, it's not doing 8th note triplets. 8th note triplets would instead of it being broken down into 2, you'd get 3. This is doing a weird thing where it's going down. I don't know, it's slower. I believe these are quarter note triplets, actually. So if we were to go to quarter note triplets, check it out on quarter notes. So here's our quarter note. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then our quarter note triplet, instead of having 4 notes in our measure, each time it breaks down into 2, we would instead have 3. So we should have 6 notes. But instead, we get something weird. We get half note triplets. So I don't know what that's about. These triplets are backwards. They need to fix that. So our 16th note triplets will go triplet, 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 triplet. When in reality, these are not 16th note triplets, because our 16th note should be slower than our 16th note triplets. So they have these. If you want 8th note triplets, then you actually need to go up. So that's just something that you need to be aware of. Just a weird thing that happened when making the plug. But it still works fine. You just have to be aware of the labeling, the labeling misuse there. If you have any questions about this, let me know. Subscribe and have a blessed day.
Nothing going down. Nothing going down. Now you will see, because you will be.